Now let's take a deep breath. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living on a beautiful spring evening. I'm Reverend Asha Burson-Johnson. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and I welcome all of you who join us from afar and those few that are here in this room. We are very grateful to have this community every single day. We are grateful to be this community every single day. Not just this small Center for Spiritual Living community, but the community of the world. It's an interesting time to be a human. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. We don't have any announcements other than we've got no announcements. We're going to read our vision and our mission together. In your program on the right-hand folded side, I invite you to join together with me as we say our vision and our mission together. Our vision. We are an open, safe, creative, affirming, and thriving spiritual community where we experience divine love and connection every day. Our mission. Through spiritual, artistic, and social gatherings, we experience and express divine love. Our intentions create ripples of compassion into the world. Our opening song is Love in Everything. We'll do it 4 times through. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing thee, revealing thee. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing thee, revealing thee. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing thee, revealing thee. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing thee. Again, revealing thee. Revealing thee. I invite up Reverend Dr. Clancy Blakemore for our opening reading, a brief time of silence that I will bring out with our crystal bowl. She'll give us an opening prayer and then lead us in our affirmation, which is in your program.
From our Science of Mind magazine, one of today's quotes was from Theodore Roosevelt. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. as the sound from the crystal bowl resonates within every fiber of our being, we know that we can embrace the light, the love, the wholeness, the peace, that universal vitality and energy that is always present. And from that place of recognition, we can pause and breathe in. And remember that all of that is from the wholeness of spirit is present here and now within everyone, everywhere. There are no exceptions, none. And from this place of quiet and acceptance, I affirm and know that as we step into this next creative moment, and the next, and the next, and the next, that we are being guided. There is a light where it seems dark. There is a harmonious thread that is that sound. As faint as it may be sometimes, it is truly there, vibrating within each one of us. This is the truth. We breathe it in and accept it and celebrate it and our connection with all. I'm so grateful that this is the truth, and I know it is the truth. And from this place, the foundation of knowing that, I can simply turn it over. I release it to Spirit. Knowing it is accomplished, goes forth into the universe, it's done. We can say together, and so it is. Some of you have the affirmation that is available. Let us read it together. I uncover my hidden conditioning and open to the fullness of life. I release any limitations in my thinking and recognize the limitless possibilities which are ever present. I just want to make a note that open to the fullness of life is with a capital letter. That means I'm opening to the fullness of spirit.
Amen. Hello. So this is an old spiritual that we changed just a little bit. We're happy to share it with you tonight. Mold me, fill me. Beautiful. Ah, thank you. I needed that.
I could do that all night.
We could do that all
I
night.
could sing that all night. It's like,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So I have a lot of things tonight. I have a lot of things to read and to talk about and to say. Just before this gathering, I had an explosion. I had an explosion at someone that I love. It might have been appropriate in the moment, but ooh, I felt shame. I felt a release. I felt regret. And I felt, this is an expression of all the pent up stuff that I've probably been feeling for the past 3-4 months. I've had my times of crying and upset and all that stuff, but I've also noticed I'm holding a lot, like all of us, right? Somebody said, we need to make Coke, 2020's done. We're just going to call it a wash. I said to a friend of mine today, well, she was living in Long Beach. She said, we just restarted our children's theater programs, and then we had an earthquake. She's like, come on. Come on. I said, well, take your umbrella, because frogs are coming next. Because we just don't know what's going on, right? We don't know what's going on. So across Facebook, beautiful, beautiful Facebook that we can skim through quickly, but occasionally there are these beautiful little nuggets that bring me right into the present moment and have me say, yes, this is what our life is about. This is what's real and true. What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other farther apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all. That got me right and ready, grounded.
Yeah.
What if? I'm always saying yes and, I'm always saying what if this is true, what if that's true, what if? I like the curious questions. So what if this is the year that's calling us to this deeper truth, this bigger truth? So that was one thing. There's so many good things to read today. Our new monthly theme of creative maladjustment, I love that phrase. We need a creative maladjustment. One of my personal favorite ministers, who I'm learning a lot from right now about how to be actively engaged in social justice and be a religious scientist, a spiritual mind person. He's very powerful in that movement, and I'm learning a lot from him. He writes every month in our Science of Mind magazine. There's always an article by our founder, Ernest Holmes, who died a long time ago in the 1960s, early 1960s. And David always writes a commentary on whatever the reading is. And this is actually from last month. And his topic, I'm only going to read the last paragraph of his little piece, but his title is A Proposal for Creative Maladjustment. He said, "Beloveds, we've been asked to accept a normal that is not normal. We've been conditioned to think and behave in terms of lack and limitation, inequality and disempowerment. We've been hypnotized into thinking that corruption is around every corner and infused into our society. But this is not the spiritual truth. Holmes is right. We need an adjustment, and I propose something a bit more radical. I believe what we need is what Dr. Martin Luther King called a creative maladjustment. In addition to getting right with our love essence, as Holmes suggests, we also need to decolonize our social conditioning that keeps in place a world working for very few of us. We need a creative maladjustment to the hypnotized tones of the world So we refuse to normalize inequality, discrimination, injustice, lack, and limitation. Because after all, love is our essence. We are one with a power greater than we are, and so is everyone we meet. And he ends every article with travel well. So I love this idea of a creative maladjustment. That's definitely what's going on right now. You know, we might have thought that our change in the world was going to come through, you know, our kumbaya feelings, but maybe we needed to upset the whole playing table, and that's what's going to bring us to this change. It's very uncomfortable, I have to say, extremely uncomfortable, and very disorienting and disorganizing, and maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's what I need. I can't speak for anyone else. I need to be disquieted in my normalcy and break up the limited thinking that has been instilled in us since the day we were born. How many lessons did we learn from life? You know, you got to work hard to make it. You can pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. There's only enough resources, so you better get mine, Jack, before you get yours. All these stories of lack and limitation. Not just in the realms of inequality and, you know, racism and all of that stuff, but everything often feels like it's telling us that we're limited, that there's not enough, that what we want to be and do in this world is impossible. And yet we see time and time again, over and over and over, that there's way more possible than we could ever imagine. That more good is actually what's available in the world when we pay attention. So this creative maladjustment for me is in our vision, in the way that we believe, in the heart of hearts. Our whole philosophy says change your thinking, change your life. Change the automatic pattern responses or reactions that we have to life. It often happens the minute someone claims abundance that something unlike that shows up. The minute I claim right relationships, it feels like every relationship we have blows up in our face. That's the old thinking coming up for the light, coming up for the healing. So in every class we teach, people discover, wow, I never realized that's what I was thinking. I never realized how limited my idea of God was. I never realized how limited my ideas of love were. I never thought that I could be abundant regardless of my checking account. And then new ideas flood in. I reposted something about the plasticity of our brain. And we have plasticity available in our brain till the day we die. And what changes our brain in the direction of peace and love and connection are things like meditation and, you know, powerful thoughts and cooperative communities and all the things that we talk about all the time. Science has proven it. It's not just fanciful thinking or wishful thinking. They can see it in the MRIs and in the brain scans that can be made nowadays, that the brain is plastic. It has plasticity. It can stretch and grow and shift. So just when we think that person will never change, that person will always be this way, or I will always be this way, there is a possibility and a hope for something new, some new information to come in. I've spoken before about the young woman I saw in an interview who was a former white supremacist, and there are a lot of them, former white supremacists, who now go out into the world and make it their mission to help other white supremacists change their brain because they understand where they come from. They can speak to them on that level. And they are not them. As I said last week, there is no them, there is no they. That's the parts in me that I get to root out, discover, uncover, and look at. I meant to have a chart here to show you, but I'm going to draw with my hands, so bear with me a little bit. There's a beautiful picture that I've talked about in classes before and that I reference a lot, and it's a big circle that we imagine contains all of life. And in that big circle, there's a tiny little line. That tiny little line represents what we know that we know. What I know that I know. this tiny little line. And then there's a little skinny wedge, like a pie piece, maybe another 5% of this whole circle. That's what we know that we don't know. Like, I don't know how to do brain surgery, and I don't know how to neuter a dog. I don't really know much about how to grow plants. My husband's a whiz at that, but not me. I can pick, but I'm not a grower. So I know there are things I don't know. I know lots of things that I don't know. I don't know trigonometry or calculus. Then the whole rest of the circle is what we don't know that we don't know. That's a lot. And that's our job, is to discover and dive into that space of what I don't know that I don't know, and see if we can move it to the category of, well, I at least know that I don't know that. At least make it visible. I spoke last week about mistakes in our improv book. Our maxim was make mistakes. And when we make a mistake, we can notice it, we can acknowledge it, and then we can use it. So my blow up earlier tonight, I noticed it, I acknowledged it, and I'm going to use it to grow, to recognize that I have some work on my unearthed rage, my unearthed anger, my unearthed sadness and grief about the world, and find another way to express it so it's not stuck in me and then has this opportunity to just blow out in a way that I don't really want to be. I'm like, how am I going to sing our opening song? Love is in everything I do when I was just being a jerk. I actually used a different word, but I'll say jerk now.
Did it start with a J?
Close. So, and yet, love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. When I remember and I take a step back and I breathe, oh yeah, this is who we are. This is who I am. And so I can quickly forgive myself. I can make amends where necessary. And then move forward. Use that to discover one more thing. Oh, I didn't know I had that going on in me. I was unaware. So can I become aware of what's happening? And then use that to move me forward. This conditioning of lack, limitation, and disempowerment. You know, a lot of us come into this life with stories. I'm not enough. I'm not wanted. I'm not worthy. That's the race consciousness. That's the seed that sometimes we get to be born into. And then we get to spend our whole life peeling those layers off of ourselves to reveal the beauty and the magnificence that we are. The love that we do, the love that we see, the love that we are. The 11th maxim that I'm going to focus on tonight is act now. I like that. It's like a commercial. Act now. Basically, she says, improvisers don't do ready, aim, fire. They do ready, fire, aim. They do something. And as our quote said earlier, the best thing to do is the best thing to do. But the second best thing to do is the wrong thing. Is all better than doing nothing. Because at least we're doing something. So we're seeing that again all over Facebook and social media. People have the best intentions and they put something out there and then they recognize, oh, that was not what I really wanted to say. That was not really appropriate. I had that several times. And I got to say, I need to step back. I need to re-look at this. I need to listen to new voices. I need to see differently and discover what I don't know that I don't know. And then maybe I have a chance of saying something that might be helpful, of acting in a way that would be supportive and helpful in the world, to be a real ally of people in this world, instead of just talking about it. Do something. Even if it's clumsy, even if it's the wrong thing, and then pay attention. She said we act in order to discover what comes next. I love that idea. Just start. She said, we so often, especially perfectionists, we procrastinate. I just don't know how to get started. I've got writer's block. Well, just sit down and write something. You know, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, whatever. Get your hand moving on the paper or typing something in your computer. If I don't want to clean my house, just clean a shelf. Start somewhere. Act to discover what wants to come next. That's how an improvisation works. Somebody comes in and says something, they act, and then the rest of the group goes, oh, that's okay. Let's play with this idea for a while. Do something. And she also said it's very important to find people to support you. People who will support us in moving forward, in taking the actions that we say we want to do. So I love this phrase that my bonus son taught me, which is find an ability. Somebody to help you with this new ability. So if you want to walk 3 times a week, you find an ability, and you say, okay, you and I are going to walk every day at 7 o'clock in the morning. That would not be my time, but and then you make an agreement, and by having that other person, I know for me, I'm much better at showing up for somebody else often than I am for myself. Now, that's kind of sad, but it would be nice if we could constantly show up for ourselves, but often it takes that other person. Sometimes it takes the other person to see who we really are in the moment. My beloved mom, who came over after I had my little explosion and reminded me, this is who you are. Oh yeah, I forgot for a few minutes. Thank you. We need others to see sometimes beyond our blinders of whatever's going on, our limitations of thought. So creative maladjustment, what can we shake up? How can we look at something differently? I talk about this all the time. I'm very gratified to see, this is from our home office. And I'm very gratified to see this coming from our home office, and I'll read this in a minute. There's a lot going on right now. There's COVID, there are protests. I read something that this is the largest civil rights movement in the history of the world. All 50 states and 18 countries are protesting. That's amazing. Wow. That's amazing. And some are peaceful and some are not, and there's all kinds of reasons for that, and we don't need to get into all that right now. We don't have 5 hours. But I really appreciated this from our home office. Centers for Spiritual Living calls for it to end, exclamation point. I'm going to read the whole thing because they specifically said, if you use this at all, don't paraphrase and don't just pick and choose what you want to say from it. This is our official stance from our home office, and I agree with this. We are grieving lives that ought not to have been lost. George Floyd, I can't talk today. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery are the most recent in a list of countless unarmed African American and Black people who have been murdered for the color of their skin over the past 400 years in the U.S. Too many generations have suffered, and it has never been and is not now acceptable. We denounce racism in all its forms, the starkness of unapologetic intentional racism, the racism of silence in the face of injustice, the systemic racism inherent in our education, justice, income, and opportunity inequity, and the racism that lies hidden in our individual hearts and minds. We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors. We value a community-wide climate of safety that arises from compassion, justice, mutual respect, and kindness. Therefore, we join our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who, echoing the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said, "You and I should form the habit of taking definite time each day to contemplate and affirm peace with justice. For there is no peace possible without justice. But faith without works is dead. We should not only pray, we should act, each contributing the best they have to the common purpose, each willing to make any sacrifice necessary. For there can be no individual self-preservation without the preservation of all. We call upon ourselves and the faith communities in the U.S. to take action that shows that we have heard the cry of suffering and we own our responsibility for it. Whether that action is prayer, donations to organizations that promote racial justice, rigorous self-education, or active engagement, let not this moment in history pass unattended. May the actions we take be steeped in peace and respect for the sacredness of each life, knowing that whatever we do, individually and collectively, must be divinely directed from a higher consciousness. When we apply our proven spiritual principles through rigorous practices and compassionate action, the desired results cannot fail to demonstrate. Take a breath. The quote at the beginning of the chapter from the improv book this week was the song that the musicians sang when I spoke last Sunday at Unity of Tacoma, and is exactly what this letter talks about. I cannot do all the good that the world needs, and the world needs all the good I can do. For myself, I'm probably going to go to the peace demonstration tomorrow in Squim at 4 o'clock. I believe there's also one in PA at 5. I'm going to double check those, but I'm going to go and just stand and be a presence. And I'm diving into rigorous self-education. I'm reading books, I'm looking at documentaries, I'm listening to the 1619 podcast, and several other things. And I'm going to be doing a 12-step recovery program that David Alexander provided as a resource. And I'll give you information on when that's going to start. It will be Wednesday afternoons. I think I said 2:30 to 4, but I'll confirm all of that. I'm still waiting to hear back from the organization. It's called recoveringfromwhiteconditioning.com. It's a 12-step based recovery program to recover from white conditioning, the way our country was set up, and how that's impacted us and everybody else. So if you want to join me in that, let me know, and I'll make sure you get the information. You can join us on Zoom, and a few people can come and join us in person. I'm waiting to find out how long they recommend that the class be. It's based on a book. I've already ordered 5 of them from Amazon, and I'll order more. They're only $10 once I have a sense of how many people are going to participate in the class. Or you can order your own. I don't know where else besides Amazon. I like to promote local bookstores if possible. So maybe call Port Book and News if you live in the area. See if they have it. It's Recovering from White Conditioning is the name of the book.
I'll go.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll talk more about when and where. It'll be a Wednesday coming up in the next couple of weeks as soon as I get a few more details hashed out. But that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm choosing to do. I'm doing something. I need to do something because the way I've been moving forward in this idea has not worked for me. And it has not worked for others. And there are times when I have said things and then noticed my mistake, acknowledged my mistake, and then used my mistake to propel me forward. That's what we can do. Honor where we are. Notice what's going on within us. Breathe. Sink deeply into who we really are. An expression of this divine life. And then maybe ask the question, maybe in our meditations, maybe with a spiritual counselor, what is mine to do here? In whatever's going on, whether it's taking care of your mom or a friend's dog or helping feed people, what is mine to do now, in this moment? Take a breath. I have a little tremor in my right hand, and I've just noticed tonight it's really active, which means a lot of energy is moving through my body. There's a lot of energy happening. And when I speak things out loud that for me are deeply true, That also happens. I get this vibration happening, and often my teeth chatter if it's very true. Which in job interviews has been weird when I've said, I think I'm supposed to have this job because my teeth are chattering, and they're like, okay. And then I get the job. Why not? This is what I'm supposed to do. I can tell because I've got chattery teeth. This is true because I can tell. We know in the gut, we know in the deepest heart of ourselves when something is deeply true for us. And we can't know that for somebody else always. I can't know somebody else's truth. And right now, these days, I want to be listening more and asking more. Tell me about your truth. And then being quiet. I don't need to fix it or change it or add anything to it. I can just be a witness and take it in and go, did I know that? Do I know that I know that? Maybe I didn't know that I didn't know that. Maybe I learned something. It's never too late. Each moment is fresh. Take another breath. This is our time for conscious giving. If you consciously give to this center, I am so deeply grateful. As a center, we are so deeply grateful. We give out in every month from what comes in. We are also now supporting our little free pantry that is down at the entrance of our property, which is a place where anybody can come and get food at any time. It's lovely to be able to have it right at the end of my driveway. And we're continuing to do baggie ministry. Clancy and I still need to sit and put together some, but we'll have those ready for next week. So anybody who is here or wants to come by and pick some up, we'll have some baggie ministry bags ready by next week. Is there anything anybody would like to say before we do our conscious giving?
Sometimes you don't know those little things about people, but I attended and graduated from a historically black college. And I really got a totally different view of the world
I bet you did.
after 4.5 years. It was really tremendously educational. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Larry.
I'm grateful for the breakthrough that is guaranteed to follow this breakdown.
He said, I am grateful for this breakthrough that is guaranteed to follow this breakdown. Amen. Yeah, because every breakdown is a break open, a breakthrough of something
You gotta
new.
go through it.
You gotta go through it. Yeah. It's not comfortable. It ain't fun. It's necessary. Deeply necessary. All right, let's do our conscious giving affirmation. I am open to give. I am open to receive. I am grateful to be in the flow of life through and as me. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing thee, revealing thee, revealing thee. Thank you, Nancy. We are so deeply grateful for these gifts and tithes freely given. We know that they come through this center and out into the wider world to do good. We are looking at where we are giving for the coming months, and we know that it is a powerful way to affirm the good we want to see in the world. We encourage giving to those people, places, and things that you want to see more of in this beautiful world. And so it is. I invite you to stand. We're going to sing our closing song, which Premdaya brought to us from Dances of Universal Peace. Open up my heart like a rose. Let the love flow out and in. Turn off the mind that thinks it knows where I'm going and where I've been. Open up my heart like a rose. Let the love flow out and in. Turn off the mind that for joining us. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Catherine, so much for your beautiful gift of music and who you are. I'm
Thanks.
so grateful, and I'm grateful for who you are in our world and in this community. We'll see you next week. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Bye.